creations, because you've been in manufacturing now for, I think, 40 years. Is that correct? Sorry,
Just show my age.
a few decades, plus or minus. But you actually started off with your factory in Wales, and then responded to Tony Blair's Courtaulds directive around single-use plastics, and really kick-started your production after that in Pondicherry in India. So you're working with mass production. I think at the time it was mostly packaging, I believe, and retail, point of sale and merchandising goods. But you've seen a lot of shift, no doubt, in mass production in India. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you're incorporating circularity and also upcycling? Because I know you've got bags and everything's operating soon.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just start as to why we are here today. We some years ago we talked about recycling, upcycling, and all that. It was all to do with academics or perhaps King Charles. He talked about all that. But we are here today because the consumers are demanding it. People voting with their wallets are saying, look, we want to buy products that are ethically manufactured, which have eco-credentials, all these things about REACH compliance, CFD, meeting international standards have all come in the last few years. So my company, we said, we got involved with this some years ago with the Code Road Act, where single-use plastic was banned. Not particularly banned, but then there was a gentleman's agreement that we should reduce single-use plastic bags, and the big boys, Tesco, Marks and Spencer, Squad, they all agreed to reduce single-use plastic bags, and then we got involved in making, bags for them. And the Tesco jute bags, the ones with the Ladybird, were produced by us, and we reduced bags over 30 million plastic bags. Now, we have moved forward because what has happened is that the same thing, which people kept repetitively repeating, it was a behavioral change, and people said, oh, look, we want a reusable bag, but then we introduced fashion, and that's how we got involved with the British Fashion Council, and Cardiff University has been very helpful. Actually, have the vision to bring in fashion to ensure that the reusable bag is a fashionable bag. Now, we went recently to India, and I just mentioned this because it's part of the discussions that we've had. And this was a delegation which Jamila organized from the Department of Trade and Caroline Rush from the British Fashion Council. And there were a lot of wonderful panel discussions in my factory. And one of the things, and you mentioned that we could learn from the suppliers in India. One of the things that one of the panelists from India said, look, you're trying to teach us about circularity, but it's been in our DNA. We wear saris, the saris which is a 9-yard cloth, but we extend the life, we extend the end of life, because it starts off with a sari which is worn, then it becomes a sling bag for a child, it is also becoming a bag, and then when it's completely gone, it's used as a duster, a mop, and all that. So the end of life has been extended, and this concept of circularity has been there, not just in India, but most parts of Asia, Africa. So they've used and reused products to ensure that this whole thing is extended. And if you look at, say, America today, the studies say that approximately 50 kilograms of clothes are discarded by the American public. That's, if you just do the maths, and I did the maths, it's 340 million people. You multiply that by 50 kilos, you've got 17 billion kilograms going into waste. Yeah. Only 15% is recycled.
Just to add to that very quickly, Sri, just because I think it will be helpful context for everyone. Recently, on a trip to Bangladesh, I travelled out to rural areas and saw some of the plastic collection recycling that was in place. And there are little informal hubs that are set up where local community groups go out and gather plastic bottles, put them in a sack, take them back to a central location in the town where they're invested in mechanical like a mulching, shredding sort of tool. They wash them, they wash the bottles, lay them out in the sun, shred them, lay the chips out per colour, bag them up again, and then sell them on to the next person in the chain, who then sells them on to another person in the chain, who then sells them on to somebody who turns them into sewing thread. So, and it is absolutely true that circularity in Asia is far more advanced than it is in anywhere in the US or Europe. We just choose to market it and talk about it in such a way that it's a sort of high concept idea that we need to sell back to producers. And half of my family is Asian, and I've benefited from the resell, reuse, sorry.
So you see, there are challenges. We're now working with two major British brands. One of them has got cuts. They have these virgin materials which they just send off to the incinerator. Now, they are happy to give us those cuts, and they said, look, can you use them? And because it's a major brand, we're happy to use that particular brand in that other products that we make. So we've got container loads of that particular cuts. The other one, I mentioned it because there are issues and problems which I just need to address. The other one is a brand which has got finished products which they want us to upcycle. Mm-hmm. It's easily said in a discussion here, but when you look at all the problems that we face, how do you collect it? How do you segregate it? How do you then transport it? The cost of transportation. Then the cost of duties, taxes.
Yeah.
And then, when you then produce, suppose you're upcycling a product, we did a research that it costs 4 times more to produce something when it's upcycled. So, we don't have the machines today to, take all these waste and do it on an industrial scale, because for 40, 50 years, we got the machineries for manufacturing, but we don't have the machinery to upcycle.
Yeah.
So those are challenges, and I think, it's the right time today for us to discuss and also ask people in government, we've got Jamila sitting here, to talk about how we look at duties and customs and all that, because governments are simply saying, even governments say, look, this is the duty. What is the value of a garment? Is it £100, which is the resale value, or is it £10, which is the perceived value? And do you charge duties at £100 because it is importing something and re-export it? So that's a major challenge that we face, because at the end of the day, people are happy to buy a upcycled product, providing it's not that much more expensive. But if you then charge them 4 times, they're not going to buy it.
Yeah, there's no viable business model in that. I think that's why the hierarchy at the moment really lies within better decision making around design and production. Also because, of course, the use phase of products is being extended because of EPR and other regulations. And so I think it's not unfair to say that the opportunity around disassembly and recycling in that manner is very far away compared to the immediate need to reduce emissions, chemical loads, and all of the impacts associated with the production process, particularly when we talk about volume. Because one thing we haven't mentioned is the business model where apparel can be exported directly from a factory in Asia to a consumer here and fly below the de minimis minimum. So we actually don't even know in the UK how much textile volume and what type of textiles are on the market, let alone sort of working out what we might do, down the line once we do get recycling infrastructure. So there's a lot of decisions that need to be made sort of early on, I think, before we can get to the stage of exploiting that opportunity.